All right, diving into EMDR therapy today. You've sent us like a ton of really interesting stuff. Seems like you're pretty curious about how EMDR actually works and what the benefits could be and if it might even be, right for you. So let's just jump right in.
Yeah, let's get to it.
EMDR, first things first. Stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Basically, in the simplest terms, it's this type of therapy that helps your brain work through difficult or, traumatic memories.
Yeah, and what I think is super fascinating is that it kind of came from like a total accident. Back in the late 1980s, there was this psychologist, Francine Shapiro, and she noticed that when she moved her eyes back and forth, her own, distressing memories weren't as intense.
It's pretty wild how these small, almost random moments can lead to these huge discoveries. But how does just moving your eyes, help with something as complex as trauma?
Well, the eye movements, they're just one piece of the puzzle, really. Think of it kind of like this. Imagine your brain is like a piano, right? For the music to sound good, to be harmonious, both sides of the piano, they need to be in tune.
Right.
And similarly, EMDR uses this technique called bilateral stimulation, so things like eye movements, tapping, or even sounds, to basically get both sides of your brain working together.
Okay, so it's not just like looking around the room.
Yeah.
It's about creating a kind of harmony, like you said, in the brain.
Exactly. And this harmony allows your brain to kind of unlock those quote-unquote frozen traumatic memories and reprocess them in a healthier way. It's a lot like what happens naturally when you're in REM sleep, when your brain is processing emotions and memories. But EMDR does it very consciously and in a guided way.
So it's almost like giving your brain a little extra help to do what it already does naturally, but maybe got kind of stuck because of a traumatic experience.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And, one of the most important things to understand about EMDR is that it's not about erasing those memories, right? It's more about changing how they affect you, reducing that emotional charge they have, and helping you move forward.
This is where I'm starting to see just how powerful EMDR could be, It's not just about coping with the symptoms, it's actually going to the root of the issue.
Exactly. And I think one of the most interesting aspects of EMDR is that it's meant to be really collaborative. Your therapist is more like a guide walking with you every step of the way. It all starts with building that therapeutic relationship, where you feel safe and understood, which is just essential when you're dealing with something as sensitive as trauma.
Makes total sense. Feeling safe and supported would be crucial when you're revisiting those tough memories.
Yeah.
You mentioned in your notes that EMDR has this 8-phase process that seems pretty involved. What are the key things someone should know about how it all works?
Yeah, so those 8 phases are really about creating this structured framework, the supportive framework for, your healing journey. It's not like this rigid set of steps or anything, but more like a flexible roadmap tailored to you. And we've already talked about the first few phases, building that therapeutic connection, figuring out which specific memories or experiences you want to target, and preparing you for the reprocessing. And then you get to the desensitization phase where you're focusing on those targeted memories while doing the bilateral stimulation.
So this is the phase where the brain starts to actually reprocess those memories, right? Is it reliving the trauma all over again?
Not exactly. It's not about getting lost in the memory and overwhelmed by it. The bilateral stimulation actually helps create some distance. It allows you to kind of observe the memory and the emotions that come up with it with more curiosity rather than being completely consumed by them.
That makes sense. You're creating a little space, a buffer, so you can process it without feeling totally overwhelmed.
Right, exactly. And as you go through that, as you're processing the memory, your therapist will help you identify and then challenge any negative beliefs that might have formed, as a result of that experience.
Okay.
So, for example, if you went through a betrayal, you might have this belief that you can't trust anyone. And EMDR can help you kind of reevaluate those beliefs and replace them with something, more positive and more empowering.
Oh, that's really interesting. So it's not just processing the memory itself, but also reframing those beliefs that might be holding you back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about, creating a more balanced and realistic view of the past.
Right.
Which then has this ripple effect on your present and your future.
I can see how that could be so powerful for people who are stuck in these negative thought patterns or struggling with self-esteem issues that stem from past trauma.
It definitely can be. And, as you work through these phases, your therapist will also guide you through a body scan to help you become aware of any like physical sensations or tension that might still be there from those traumatic experiences.
That's something I hadn't really thought about before, the physical impact of trauma.
Yeah, it's often overlooked, but trauma can really show up in our bodies, not just our minds, you know.
And EMDR helps you address those physical symptoms and release any of that like trapped energy or tension you might be holding on to.
So we're talking about processing those memories, reframing beliefs, addressing physical sensations, a whole body approach. One of the things that stood out to me in the stuff you sent was the story about a woman, Sarah, I think her name was. She had been dealing with anxiety and panic attacks for years after this car accident. And she had tried different therapies, but nothing seemed to really help until she tried EMDR. And she, I think it said after like just a few sessions, she started to feel a lot less anxious. And she was even able to eventually drive again. Yeah, that's a perfect example of how EMDR can lead to like really profound change. And it highlights something that, really important. EMDR isn't just about reducing symptoms. It aims to create lasting change at a much deeper level.
That's what I find so amazing about it. It's not just a Band-Aid. It's about like fixing the root of the problem and empowering people to really heal from the inside out. But I imagine some people might be, I don't know, hesitant to try EMDR, especially if they've had like bad experiences with therapy before or are afraid of what might, come up during those sessions.
Right. And that's totally understandable. It's normal to feel a little apprehensive, especially when you're dealing with these like sensitive and sometimes painful memories. But the thing is, EMDR isn't about forcing you to like relive those experiences in all their intensity. It's more about approaching them with a sense of, I don't know, curiosity and compassion. And your therapist will be there with you every step of the way to make sure you feel safe and in control.
That's good to hear. So it's not like dredging up the past just for the sake of it. It's about processing it in a way that feels, safe and manageable.
Exactly. And remember, you always have the right to like pause, take a break, or adjust the process if anything feels like too intense. Your therapist is there to work with you at your pace and to help you through any bumps in the road.
That reminds me, you mentioned potential side effects. I'm curious what those might be and how, like, a therapist would help someone manage them.
Sure. So just like any therapy approach, there can be a few temporary side effects, like, maybe feeling more emotional, having vivid dreams or some physical sensations. These are usually pretty short-lived and often a sign that your brain is actually processing and integrating what's happening.
So those side effects, even though they might be uncomfortable, could actually be a sign that the therapy is working.
Yeah, in a way, yes. It's like your brain is doing some spring cleaning, getting rid of those old files and making space for new ones. And a good EMDR therapist will be able to help you understand and manage those side effects and give you like tools and strategies to deal with anything that comes up.
That makes sense. It's like having someone there to guide you through the process, offering support and making sure you feel okay. But even with all that, it can still be intimidating for some people to even think about starting this whole process.
Oh, I completely get that. Choosing to go to therapy, especially when it involves dealing with trauma, can be, a really big decision. But it's also an investment in yourself, in your well-being, and it can be so freeing to finally let go of those things you've been carrying for so long.
Yeah. Thinking back to the Sarah's story, it must have taken so much courage for her to not only ask for help, but to keep going even when it was hard. I think that's something we often forget, just how much strength it takes to face those tough emotions and keep moving forward.
Absolutely. Healing is not always easy, but it's always worth it. And while EMDR can be really effective, it's important to remember that it's not like a magic solution. It takes, commitment, effort, and a willingness to really engage in the process.
Right. It's not a quick fix. It's a journey that takes time and dedication. And speaking of finding the right support, one of your questions was about finding a qualified EMDR practitioner. So let's get into that.
Yeah.
I mean, finding the right therapist for any kind of therapy could be like a lot,
Yeah.
but especially when it's something as specialized as EMDR. So where would you even start looking for someone qualified and with experience in this approach?
You're right. It's super important to find a therapist who's not just certified in EMDR, but also like someone you feel comfortable with, safe with. One of the best places to start is the EMDR Association of UK and Ireland. They actually have this directory on their website, and you can search for practitioners in your area.
Oh, that's handy. And I'm guessing they probably have info on like what qualifications to look for.
Yeah, definitely. You want to make sure the therapist is accredited and has specific training in EMDR. And it's also a good idea to check if they have experience treating the specific issues you're dealing with.
So it's like finding any other specialist. You want to make sure they have the right expertise for your needs. And aside from qualifications, what are some other things someone might, you know, think about when choosing an EMDR therapist?
It really comes down to like finding the right fit. Don't be afraid to ask potential therapists about their approach to EMDR, how they run their sessions, and what their experience has been like working with, clients with similar concerns to yours.
Hmm.
You can even ask for like testimonials or see if they have any online reviews.
That's a good tip. It's so important to have that connection, that trust with your
Oh,
therapist.
absolutely. And remember, you have the right to ask questions, shop around a bit, and choose a therapist who you really feel is the best match for you. This is your healing, and you should feel confident and comfortable with the person who's helping you through it.
So well said. And, through all this, it's really struck me that EMDR is about, like, taking back your story, taking back the power from those difficult experiences. Like, you're not defined by what happened to you, but by how you choose to heal and move forward.
Yeah, I love that. It's about realizing that trauma can be a part of your story, but it doesn't have to be the whole story. EMDR can help you kind of fit those experiences into a bigger picture of strength and growth.
It's inspiring to see how people like Sarah, who we talked about earlier, can use EMDR to not just overcome those challenges, but to actually thrive and create a more fulfilling life.
Exactly. It's not just about, getting by. It's about thriving. And that's what's so empowering about EMDR. It gives you the tools to take control of your own healing and create the life you want to live.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive into EMDR, and I hope you're feeling more, I don't know, knowledgeable and empowered to explore if this might be a good path for you.
Yeah.
Just by researching EMDR and wanting to learn more, you've already taken that first step.
Yeah. And if you do decide to try EMDR therapy, be patient with yourself. Healing takes time, and it's not always, straightforward. There might be some ups and downs, but just trust that you have the strength to get through it.
That's so important to remember. Be kind to yourself and know that you're not alone on this journey.
And remember, healing is possible. You deserve to live a life free from the weight of the past.
That's a great way to put it. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into EMDR therapy. We hope you found it helpful and encouraging. And remember, there are tons of resources out there. We've included some links in the show notes to help you keep learning. Until next time, take care and keep believing in the power of healing.